This is going to be a very simple talk about 3 ideas. I don't think anything could be much simpler than this. How to make nothing happen. Nothing's happening. This individual here behind me, you may recognize as a poet. He is the English poet W.H. Auden, who in 1939 wrote a poem in memory of an Irish poet, W.B. Yeats, in which he used the line, "Poetry never made anything happen." Stands to reason, doesn't it? I disagree with that. We disagree with that, and we hope to demonstrate to you this afternoon why we disagree with that. The first idea is not mine, and as you can see from behind me, it began in 2008. It was Upstart. This was a program begun by Shireen Badat, the remarkable woman Shireen Badat, and a group of postgraduate students here at Rhodes University. I would like to read you what she said at the time. In mid-2008, a group of enthusiastic postgraduate students of journalism at Rhodes University helped me to start a school newspaper, Upstart, in 7 previously disadvantaged high schools in Grahamstown. Working with grade 8 and 9 learners, the project aimed to expand the abilities of school children in a variety of areas, including promoting a culture of literacy, developing reading and writing abilities, encouraging inter-school communication in order to break down racial, cultural, and language barriers, and developing leadership skills. There they are. In 2008, Upstart, the new school newspaper, was a black and white newspaper with 8 pages in it, and it was published 4 times per year. Move on to 2012, and already these details I'm going to give you now are out of date. They're more impressive. This is what it is now. There are clubs at 12 different schools in the Grahamstown area. In fact, there are more than that. There's one, I believe, in Port Alfred as well, so it's spreading. There are 250 learners plus involved in the program. It is now a full-color, 32-page newspaper published 8 times per year. Here is Shireen with a group of her, she likes to call them Upstarters for some reason. I would have thought Upstarts might be better, but Upstarters. This is at the Grocot's Mail office, which is where they were based to begin with. And they're there. They didn't just involve themselves in the newspaper, though. They involved themselves in the community. And there are a couple of pictures here to show what they would do. Go out into the community, get their hands dirty, do things for the people that they know and live with. Always with a smile, as you can see there. One of the advantages they had, one of the perks, I suppose, of this program was that they met lots of people, lots of iconic people, such as, for example, the constitutional judge Albie Sachs, struggle icon, of course. You can see 2 of them with him there. And you'll recognize this individual in the middle, which is, of course, Desmond Tutu, the arch. And the young man to his left is also now to my right. This is Sanele Ntshingana. I'll introduce you to him in just a moment or 2. So that was the first idea. And Upstart was the beginning of what happened next. What happens next? This happens next. Poetry. Shireen came to me and said, look, there are individuals in this group who would like to continue even though they're no longer in grades 8 and 9, or even 10 for that matter, but they're too old. What could we do with them? And they particularly want to continue writing, and they want to continue writing poetry. Would you work with them for a while? Why not? I'll do that. I'll go down once or twice, then the enthusiasm will disappear, and I'll go back to doing what I was doing before. I could not have been more wrong. At first, it was a group of boys, all boys to begin with, and we called ourselves Upstart Plus, didn't we? Upstart Plus. But we wrote, we worked, we edited, we thought, and we did all sorts of stuff, but we thought in the end, what should we do with this? Where are we going with this? And this is where we went with it. We decided in early 2011 that we were going to put our work together. We were going to produce an anthology of poetry, and we would launch it at the Arts Festival. It was called I Write Who I Am, a collection of poetry launched at the festival, as I said, last year. The work of 19 poets, of whom Sanele is one, all of them from township schools, and the focus is their experience of growing up in South Africa. All of that was there. So the poetry anthology was the next step, the next idea. Reviews. This you will find on the cover of the book if you acquire yourself one later on. Here you will find love, joy, hardship, despair, loss, ambition, celebration, hope, fun, and a great deal more. All expressed in the clear and honest voices of young people who have a real sense of who they are and of what they have to offer. Suddenly this was becoming far bigger than I'd expected it to be. This was the launch here at Rhodes at the Nuns' Chapel. That's Cindy reading her poem, or one of her poems, from the anthology. And one of the great things again was that we met people, we met good people, we met exciting people. One of them is the writer Siphiwe Mahala, who came and was part of that launch on that day.
My name is...
Oh, sorry. You're quick. One of the people involved in that project is Sanele. I'm going to ask him now to introduce what happens next, and we go from there.
So I wrote Hlalane, My Dwelling, My Domicile, a poetry of mine. There's a collection of mine that I wrote in 2010, 2 years back now, and I was 17 by then. So this poem, Hlalane, My Dwelling, My Domicile, is a poem that is dedicated into where I'm coming from, my village, that is across in the Grahamstown East. So I wrote this poem when I was in Nathaniel Nyaluza High School. It's a local school in Grahamstown. Some of you may know the school, and some of you may not. But it's a school that is based here in Grahamstown East. And then I dedicated this poem to Hlalane, and in this poem I'm discussing things that are happening in my village, things that young people are facing, ranging from young children who are reluctant to set off to school and many other more. So watch the poem and enjoy.
My name is Sanele Ntshingana. I am 17 years old and I live here in Grahamstown. I live in Hlalane location. Hlalane, my dwelling, my domicile. This is how I view you. Your ever dusty, monotonous gravel roads. Your comic houses engulfed by tall trees originated from Mount Zion, nevertheless full of wicked deeds. You will never get tranquility in this village. Neighbors always swear at each other, fighting fiercely when intoxicated. Small children so reluctant to set off to school. No promising expectations, no unity, no amity, just calamity. When it's dusk and you enter the first lane of my village, you will see earliest thugs glancing at your possessions, giving you facial frightening expressions. Then an apprehensive sentiment take its toll. Starvation is the middle name of Hlalane. When you pass by my village during the day, you will perceive some attractive equus asinus with lean structures and canis familiaris seeking for food in all quarters due to humongous starvation. Hlalane, my dwelling, my domicile. You have never given me love that any typical child deserves. But proclaiming the truth does not mean I'm complaining. I am successful and I have vanquished those ghastly circumstances. I have acquired endurance, fortitude, and charity. I thank you, Hlalane, for giving me an opportunity to reside in you, and now I have an attitude of gratitude.
That is not a complaining poem, but it's a celebration poem. At the end of the day, that little seed that was planted here in Grahamstown did not only touch Grahamstown residents' lives, but it also touched people across the world. Because that very same video was shot by Syracuse University students that is based in America, who came to Grahamstown to conduct their final year research in journalism. But surprisingly, that poem was not part of their research. But I recited that poem to them, and then I told them about that poem. They became interested in it. So it touched people's lives in America, in China, or maybe in UK. I don't know. Thank you very much.
Well done, Sanele. This fellow has a future. That was the second idea. The third one. What happens now? What happens next? Look at the faces on these two. This was at the launch. You tell me that poetry makes nothing happen. Look at the faces. But that was the end of that. What happens now? What else can poetry do? Can it do anything at all? The next slide is a little bit disturbing. I warn you of that. I hope it's not going to be too disturbing, and it is the only one. The person at the left, sorry, at the right, looking from where you are, the person on the right is Dr. William Folds, a local veterinarian, who, as many of you may know, was called in early this year to treat 3 rhino who had been attacked at Karicha Game Reserve near Grahamstown. And not just attacked, but mutilated, literally defaced, by having their horns chopped from their faces while they were still alive and being left to die. I went to, he's seen there treating one of those rhino. I went to a presentation by Will Folds here at Rhodes, and I sat through the most harrowing experience. I didn't know what to do. I felt useless, I felt worthless, and I think a lot of people did. But his message was, this is horrible, this is harrowing, you might think it is so dreadful that you can't do anything. But his message was, lots of little things add up to something big. And his advice was, do the little things. Show the images. Press the share button if you have to on Facebook. Lots and lots of things can add up to something happening. You are not helpless. I went to see him at the end of his talk. I felt helpless still. I shook his hand and said, look, I can't speak. Give me a call. He did the next day. I lay in bed that night wondering and feeling helpless. What can poets do? Poets are by definition not activists. Helpless. And then suddenly the idea came to me. I know lots of poets all over the world. I know them, and if I don't know them personally, I know them by reputation and can get in touch with them. What if we did this? I sent out a message to as many people as I could. This was it. Would you be willing to donate some of your work to a poetry anthology dedicated to the preservation of the rhino if I could arrange to edit and publish such a book? I didn't really know what the answer would be to that, but I soon found out. It was this. Yes, count me in. People all over the world, very well-known people and people I'd never heard of before, all wanted to say, look, we will offer things for free, just for the rhino. Suddenly, when I put out a call for submissions, I had hundreds coming in, and from those hundreds, I have selected now 108. You can't read those, I'm sure, certainly I can't. But there are 108 poets from around the world, from 15 different countries, who have contributed their work for free for a new anthology that will be coming out later this year called For Rhino in a Shrinking World. I thought that was wonderful. It will be published. If you want to track what's happening, please go to rhinoanthology.wordpress.com and you can follow it from there. But nothing's happened. Never mind. We'll come back to that in a minute. The fact is, from this idea, from this anthology have come funds, have come awareness raising, but more than anything else has come a voice that the rhino didn't have, a voice that the natural world, it seems, needs more of. And I'd like you I'd like, if you wouldn't mind, for me to read one poem that will be in this anthology by the Eastern Cape poet Val Payne. It's not about rhino, but it is about the natural world. And this is it. It's called 2100 AD. The children turned the page and said, "What is this creature?" "It is the spirit of the wind and the heart of fire, and its name was Cheetah," I said. And the children turned the page and said, "What is this garden green?" "It is the creator of beauty and the seat of life, and its name was Forest," I said. And the children turned the page and said, "Where is this place?" And I said, "It is where freedom flies. It is the link. It is where the soul finds its sanctuary, and the gospel its spirit, and its name was Wilderness." And the children said, "You have stolen from us. You have taken what is ours. We do not know Cheetah or forest or wilderness. Therefore, how can we know soul or spirit or freedom or fire? Because you have destroyed the link, we are blind." And I saw how they grasped desperately for a light out of the darkness we had led them to, and I had no answer. I think there is an answer. And I think part of the answer is poetry. I'm convinced that part of the answer is poetry. So when you look at these faces, the upstarters, look at them. They are the future. Does poetry really make nothing happen? I don't think so. Not in our opinion. Not in Africa. Thank you.